Hi everyone, Daphne here, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we are finally going to review Blick Studio brush markers. Supposedly the closest dupe to Copic brush markers you can buy without having to go broke to get them. So if you're curious to see how these markers performed on a sketch cover piece and whether they're worth your time and money, then keep on watching.
So let me start off by saying that I have never been enamored with the Copic brand. I have tried them before with rather bland results, at least bland enough to not justify the investment needed to get one set, much less all of them. I always felt that they were overpriced and overrated, their popularity pushed more by young aspiring manga artists enamored by the tools of their idols than actual quality. But when I started seeing even professional artists and even animators using them, I began to question whether I even knew what I was talking about. Like I said, I've used them before and wasn't impressed, but I also didn't want to shell out the near $400 for a set that would allow me to test these properly and find out what I was getting wrong. And then Blick's Art Supply came out with their own version. Now, Blick's is an art supply company I have much respect for, and I have already tried their Prismacolor dupes and liked them. So I guess it was a matter of time before they also came out with their own Copic dupe brand. So I figured I split the difference and purchase a set to try to figure out what I was missing. So the differences between Blick's and Copic's started at the price. I paid $150 for a complete set of Blick's, which consisted of 95 markers. They advertised the set as 96, but that's because marker 71 is missing and marker 00 is the blender. Not sure why they numbered it that way. Now, in comparison, set A of Copic's only has 72 markers, but retails for about $377. And here's the rub. Copic's consist of 5 sets to make a complete collection that would run the most adventurous of you almost $2,000. So yeah. When I received the markers, they came in 4 cases of 24. They are octagon shaped to keep them from rolling off the table, and they have a brush end and a chisel end. When I saw the brush nib for the first time, I began to realize that maybe the problem wasn't the Copic's per se, but that I had been using the bullet points and comparing them poorly to Prismacolor markers. I always felt that if I needed a brush nib, I could just use the watercolors with an actual brush instead. But suddenly I was realizing that brush markers might be more convenient than I was allowing myself to let on. So I decided to try the brush markers on some sketch covers I was working on. On my original sketch covers, I colored using Prismacolor Premier markers with the chisel end. Because they don't blend very well, I always had to color with a faux animation style that I never really liked outside of actual animation cells and digital coloring. Coloring with a brush marker, on the other hand, was a completely different animal. I have to admit, I pretty much fell in love with the brush nib almost immediately, and just as quickly understood why people are obsessed with Copic's. I loved being able to blend the colors and get a really nice overall soft look to the piece. The end result really was more in line with what I wanted to get with these pieces. The brush was soft and comfortable to use, unlike chisel and bullet tips that for some reason makes me press down and cramp my hand. The thing I noticed quite quickly that I didn't like about the Blick markers was that even though they blended really well, the limited variety of colors made it difficult to find combinations that would allow for a more seamless blend. I had to use a lot of blender to really get the colors to meld together. But considering Blick markers only have 95 colors compared to Copic's approximately 358 colors, you can see how that would happen. The markers lasted for several sets of sketch covers, but of course some of the more popular colors I would use, like the blues, seem to run out rather quickly. And when the markers begin to run out of ink, they become harder and harder to blend. This also pointed out a glaring con with Blick's. They are not refillable, nor can the tips be replaced. I guess this is how they keep the markers inexpensive at around $3 compared to Copic's at $7. But when I am doing a lot of work, it would have been nice to refill the marker instead of constantly buying new ones. At least I was able to fake refill the blender with rubbing alcohol to keep it going. So my final verdict? You guys were right about Copics all this time. The Blicks are really good to use and are a really good dupe if you are on a budget and not completely picky about not having every gradient shade of color. But honestly, they make me wish I had Copics to get a better variety of shading. And since I found myself using the brush markers a lot more, refills would have been handy too. But overall, I'm super happy with Blick Studio brush markers, and I found myself enjoying coloring with markers in general thanks to them. The brush tip really makes the difference, and I love how my marker work is looking now. I still have a way to go from completely using them up, so the plan is just to empty them out and in the meantime save money to buy actual Copics in the future. But if you're on a budget and really want to get started coloring with brush markers, you really can't go wrong with Blick Studio brush markers. I highly recommend them as starter markers until you can move up to Copics for the color variety, nib replacement, and refill options. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from it, and give it a thumbs up if you did. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and check out some of my other videos in the meantime. Thanks again for all your support. Don't forget to download your free comics in the link below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!